Deposit Podcast. I am Dr. Sam, and with me, as always, Dr. Robert. You're representing today. I like the myBalto. You have it ready to go.
Thank you. I'm trying to look good for once. No, I got an event after this as well, so that's why I'm trying to look fancy for you guys and the event. Save time.
Very nice. Well, as you can see, we are joined today, which is our very favorite. We have an awesome guest with us, Dr. VetTriage, with VetTriage, which is something that I am very excited to be able to share with people. It's something I really think people are going to be excited to hear about. So without further ado, would you like to introduce yourself? Let us know your background and just how you came to be doing what you're doing.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for having me on. This is very exciting. So I'm Dr. Shadi Arif, I'm a board certified surgeon. I graduated from Cornell University in 2006. Did my first internship in Boston, Angel Animal Medical Center, and then a 2-year surgical internship at Long Island Veterinary Specialist, 3-year residency after that at Long Island Veterinary Specialist. And then from there, I ended up leaving the New York weather and went out west, where I joined a specialty hospital in Las Vegas, was there for about 9 months, then became a surgical manager, hospital manager of 3 facilities in Silicon Valley. I did that for about a year. I was on call. That's actually where my 24/7 on call began. I've been on call 24/7 since 2017, still to this day. So wow. Yeah, you gotta put time in if you want to do great things, as far as I'm concerned. But so then I spent a year there, 24/7 on call between 3 facilities that I managed. And after that, I did about a 1.5 years in LA. I was part owner of a hospital there in Studio City. After that, I moved back to Las Vegas. And the end of 2019 is when I launched VetTriage. And then from there, I do VetTriage now full time, lecture across the world, conferences across the world, trying to spearhead the movement in telehealth.
I love that. There is such a huge need for that too. And I think what really drove that home is probably the last few years with COVID, people really not knowing if they were at a place where they had to leave their house to take their pet to be seen. So I would definitely love if you don't mind sharing like kind of how you thought of VetTriage, but then also how'd you get it started and what does it look like to actually use the service?
Yeah, for those of us who have been in the profession for over a decade or so, you kind of saw this creeping up anyway. The pandemic was certainly the catalyst to bring everything to light, but this had been a problem for many years prior to the pandemic. We always, as veterinarians, had kind of a mindset of bring in more business, don't say no to anybody, which is fair enough. We are medicine, and pets need help, but it always kind of teetered. And we always sort of sacrificed workflow, work culture, mental health, work-life balance for the sake of helping pets and veterinarians and technicians and kennel folks and receptionists, very, very empathetic people towards animals. And so we have a hard time saying no, or we just can't. So that led to all the cultural issues. And then the pandemic just shot it off the edge with adoptions and then turnover rates and all that. So VetTriage was a solution that I proposed. We are a 24/7 video teletriage platform. The idea is that a pet parent can access a doctor live on video 24/7 across the world. So we're a global company, any animal type, English and Spanish speaking, to find out whether or not what you're seeing with your pet is a true medical emergency. We do find that well over 80% of these triage sessions are actually not emergencies. So chances are that pet owner is going to purchase a session with the vet, get on with the doctor in less than a minute, and be told, good news, not an emergency. Let me educate you on what I think might be going on. Here's some things you can do, what you can monitor for, until your veterinarian can see you for an appointment. And that allows the client to get peace of mind, to avoid emergency fees at the ER hospital, waiting 8 hours in their lobby, all the expense, the stress on the pet, and it allows a family veterinarian to see that client back, which is what the client inherently wants. You want to see your family vet ideally, and your family vet wants to see you. They've probably been taking care of your pets for a while, even generations. So, or let's say the converse, you do have an emergency. Well, then the doctors on VetTriage can let you know, look, I know that the emergency hospital is 3 hours away and it's going to cost you hundreds, if not more, but you should go. You really can't wait till tomorrow or next week. And that gives them also peace of mind. Okay, let's do it. Get the kids in the car, get the cat, and let's start driving. And so regardless of the outcome, the clients get educated, get peace of mind on what direction to to go under. And that's what VetTriage is. And by proxy, we end up lowering the stress levels of the emergency hospital. We end up lowering stress levels of the pet owners. We can help people save money and stress from all this stuff. So it's really just works for everybody involved.
Yeah. And
I
I think,
appreciate that personally.
yeah, I was going to say Robert is specifically like your blood pressure I can see is like lowering just as he's talking.
Yep.
So that's
Very
good.
happy about this.
But we've had so many conversations, Robert and I, just like trying to help people who listen or whatever, to say like, I know that it's not that it's not upsetting, it's not that it's not concerning, but it's not necessarily an emergency. But it is hard when you're in the throes of concern or panic to go back and just go, okay, let me take a deep breath. They said that this might not be a big deal. Like, it really is so valuable to be able to sit and talk to a doctor. And I think you mentioned before, when we were kind of chatting beforehand, that a lot of times the gatekeeper prior to this idea was somebody who, with the best intentions, knows a bit about animals, but frankly is the receptionist and they're not medically trained, and
Yeah.
probably not the best person to be maybe doing some of that triage.
Every clinic, hospital, doesn't matter the size or location, always had the same response to concerned pet owners who were calling in to find out, do I need to be concerned? Should I come in right now or not? And for whatever reason that the pet owner is asking, they just want to know, what should they do? And the receptionists who are answering the phones are not medically trained. And so they cannot give medical advice. Nor should they. It's not their position. And
Right.
so the receptionist answer for many, many years, decades, was, if you're concerned enough, come on in.
Right.
And now it's up to the pet owner to decide, well, that does not work in a lot of scenarios. If you're a 9-to-5 GP, general practitioner, you're going to close at some point. So
Right.
people can't really just show up whenever they want. You have limited capacity. And if you're a 24/7 emergency hospital, well, there's all these cases coming in, really sick, dying animals, and ones that are not and can probably wait till their vet opens again. And so that traffic causes stress. So I saw this during my surgical internship and thought, what if you could have a system where a doctor answers a phone? And the client pays a fee for this, but it's a small fee in comparison to seeing an emergency doctor on emergency.
Oh, yeah.
And the doctor can tell you over the phone what you should do and what direction to take. And of course, back then, this is 2007, 2008, video was not a big thing. I think maybe there was Skype and nobody really used it other than like long distance relationships or something.
Yeah.
So it was a phone idea.
Oh,
and then,
gosh.
of course, over time, as video became more prevalent, now everybody's got video on their phones and computers and stuff. So it's a video platform, and that's sort of where it evolved from.
So is it how does it work? Is it like you download the app and then you have it, or how do people access what you're
So we decided early on that we don't want an app, at least not right now. And the reason for that is pet owners are going to be contacting us stressed out. I mean, there are times they're in tears. They're freaking out.
Yeah.
Whether it's warranted or not doesn't matter. They are freaking out. And the last thing I want a pet owner who's concerned to do is have to go to an app store or whatever, find the app, then download it, then create the account, then pay. There's too many steps for a concerned pet owner, right? And people are usually not going to seek out VetTriage ahead of time. They're going to use us right now. There's an emergency right now. So the app-based platform just didn't work for what I wanted to achieve. So we made it a web-based browser, agnostic to any device. And they simply go to vettriage.com and they're on. That's it. And even the account creation is easy. Name, phone number, email, English, Spanish, done. Pay and you're on. And so on our end, my veterinarians don't even know, are you calling about a hamster, a horse, a dog? That information's irrelevant. I want the client to get on as quickly as possible because they're concerned, they're freaking out, and we don't know how big of an emergency it is. So I want the client to be on with my doctor right away. So it's 1 or 2 minute wait time on average, and they're on with the doctor immediately. So I avoided an app on purpose for that reason. We may down the line have an app, it's kind of the trendy thing to do. It's cute, but for our purposes, medically speaking,
it takes a lot to develop, and there's no point in having it if it doesn't work the way you want it to work. And I think your point is very much taken. It was like, at that moment, maybe if you're somebody who has used your service and is like, man, I would like to now have the app because I realize and I'll do it at a time where I'm not stressed, but now I just have the access. But I don't know that I think that is a really wise move you made, and I don't know that it should ever that part of it should ever go away. It should be like yes and. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. Yeah,
And
the idea behind it, and exactly your point. So what people do now, which is kind of what you're alluding to, where it's like only plan ahead and download this now. Some clients, when their family practitioner announces they're partnering with us, they'll go ahead and preemptively just create an account just to have it. And then it just, it saves you maybe like 10 seconds or 20 seconds, but they feel better doing that. It's all situated. All they have to do is go on there, pay, and then they're on even faster. So clients do that as well. But the system is so quick, you don't even need to do that if you didn't want to. An app absolutely would take some forethought.
Right. I think that, and I don't want to speak for you, Robert, but in what we've learned, just from our journey with myBalto and then myBalto Foundation and everything, is that there's a lot of things as veterinarians we understand are needed, right? Like access to medical records would be amazing if we had that at the touch of a button. But I don't know how much people really appreciate or understand the need for that when everything's great. That's not when you need it. That's something I think we've learned, don't you think, Robert?
yeah, I would agree. I think especially because we want to get records is one of the big things in the beginning, but people don't realize they need records until they need them, and I think that's very similar to probably your situation with VetTriage. Like it's a nice feature to have when everything's great, but then when you really need it, it's awesome because you're like, I need this right now. So that convenience that you have is such a nice thing, and I think it's great that you not only work with individual clients, but you also are a service to hospitals as well. Because I mean, even we have a phone room that's across the country because of the corporation that I'm with, and we still get people coming in that for things that, for the very answer you said, if you're concerned, come on in, because it's unfortunate to see why you're trying to cover your ass so that way if something bad does happen, you're assessing it. But having the video triage is such a smart idea because you can see the pet, and that's always been my biggest concern with future of telehealth as well. Like, how can we do a good job over the phone? So I think you're addressing a lot of those concerns, which is great.
Yeah, I never had the idea of anything less than video, the initial concept that I created. But again, video wasn't around as much as it is now. And so once video became more prevalent, I always wanted it to be video, a real-time video too, by the way. Not,
Yeah.
it should be synchronous, and doctors only, right? And it shouldn't be limited to any animal type. So that to me, that's considered the gold standard. And there are other platforms that are less so, right? And so there's an avenue for that as well. But you can certainly, and us as veterinarians, we can give examples of how hearing somebody over the phone can sound one way, seeing the pet on video totally opposite way. And usually the video helps make the case that it's not an emergency. The phone thing always sounds like an emergency.
Yeah.
So
Every time.
it's huge.
And I can't tell you like the number of people, and I'm GP and Robert is emergency, right? And so I can't tell you, most of the time people are coming and asking me questions. Well, this person called and this is what they said. So most of the time when I'm trying to figure out if something's really an emergency, I'm getting it secondhand through one of the receptionists or the technicians, number one. But I can't tell you how many times can't breathe, they're choking, they are literally like they're dying, like they're actively, the owner is panicked, and then you're like, okay, well, if there's even a question that they can't breathe, they obviously have to come in. And I have yet, I think, to have one that actually was not breathing properly. No, that's not true. We've had every once in a while, some an animal with like heart failure or something like that.
Or the reverse happens. How many people interpret their cat with a urinary obstruction as just being constipated, right?
Oh,
Constipation
yes,
is an emergency,
absolutely.
but a urinary obstruction is. And so that's actually the reverse scenario where the receptionist will take the information from the client. Oh, my cat's constipated. Hey, doc, it's 4:30. Do you want to see a constipated cat? No, it's not an emergency. Booking for tomorrow.
Right.
And it's actually urinary obstruction, right? Not the receptionist's fault, not the client's fault. Neither one of them are medically trained to probe further. And so that's the opposite end of the spectrum with it. So yeah, phone is I'm not a fan of it. However, for folks who are listening that maybe don't have internet or don't have video, because we work in a lot of rural areas, we actually do offer a phone service as well for clients. It's better than nothing to talk to a vet.
Sure,
and usually we can figure out a way to like email or text images or videos too, so at least get something right to hold on to. But we do have clients who call that don't have video or internet.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point though, because really those ones that don't end up being emergencies, they're not the big deal. The big deal is when you actually miss something that is, like you said, life threatening. And now we just went from something that we could have unblocked and moved on a lot sooner versus now we are having secondary, they're azotemic, they have all these other issues, you know what I mean? And now we're worried about it. So, well, we'd worry about it anyway, but yeah.
Now we're more worried about it. So I think it's
now this is a longer issue
Yeah.
and a much more concerning one. So
Sure. Sure.
yeah, no, I love what you're doing. I think it's such a great thing to offer the community, and I don't think people are not like know how to access this resource most of the time. Like, I think they just figure I'm going to call my vet and
yeah.
I'm going to see if they can let me come in. So, how are you guys getting the word out there yourselves? Like, how do you guys share what you're doing?
So most of our traffic actually comes from clinic partnerships. So if you're a clinic, it doesn't matter if you're a mom and pop practice or a fairly large general practice, whether you're a 24/7 ER or just an urgent care, multi-specialty, if you're a rescue or a shelter, if you're an academic institution, regardless. So those facilities through partnerships, when they choose to send clients our way, they will simply say, go to our website, click on VetTriage, and they'll take care of you from there. We're at capacity, or we're closed for the holiday, or we have inclement weather, whatever it may be. And that's how well over 85% of our traffic comes through partnerships. The other 15% are things like podcasts, radio shows, television, SEO, the social media. That people just find us with mouth. That's the other way. But the vast majority are through partnerships. They come directly to us, and that's great because what that does is it makes the pet owner feel better that we're not some scam, right? We are an extension of the facility. And if you have, like, for example, Cornell University is partnered with us. They've been with us for a few years now.
Oh, wow.
I mean, if Cornell's telling you go to this company, they're great. You're going to trust that. You're going to trust that, right? And so it's great to have the facility, the organization partner with us to give legitimacy to us, and then it allows for a seamless referral. And we know, again, chances are we're probably going to save that person money and stress. It's not an emergency. Do this, monitor for that. Call your vet in the morning or next week. So that's how most people find out about us is through partnerships with organizations and clinics.
That's awesome. And so how do those partnerships work? Like, if I went and said to the owner of my clinic, hey, we should really do this, would it be just like, because you said the owner pays, so it's not like the clinic pays, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we made a point to not ding the clinic, the hospital, the urgent care for the the owner's responsibility to triage their pet, to get the pet taken care of. Right? It's your pet, you're responsible for it. And we also know that you're going to be spending a minimal amount to probably save hundreds or thousands of dollars by an unnecessary emergency visit. So the way it works with partnerships is it's free. There's no contracts or agreements. And we create a landing page for you. So you'd have like a VetTriage website with your logo on it. It'll have a little blurb on there about why and what we are, and then how to sign up, all on the same page. And the client would get to that through a VetTriage logo on your website. We also will create flyers for you, digital flyers with your logo on it and a blurb and the steps of how to connect. And those you can email to clients, share on social media, add it to a newsletter. You can print them out, hand them at checkout or with puppy and kitten folders or whatever, however you do it to spread the word and say, hey, we're not available. VetTriage is awesome, instead of having the client go automatically to the local ER. And then finally, we're going to create unique protocols for you. So let's say you're a 9-to-5 GP and you've got 3 emergency hospitals in the area that you want your clients referred to. Maybe you even like one more than the other 2. Right? You can tell us. I know, because it always
You've been
happens.
around a minute.
It always
He's done this before.
So you may give us like those 3 ER options for your clients, but say this is the order that I want them referred to.
Right.
Hospital A, then hospital B, then hospital C if you really have to. And so we'll follow your protocol, so your clients are being taken care of on the emergency side. We're gonna help that client get referred. My staff will call that emergency hospital for your client to get them in, and then send them our records so they know what we're seeing, what we suspect. And so that way it's a seamless referral on that end. So we'll create the landing page for you, flyers and individualized protocols, no contracts. It's free for the facility. We partner, and I can literally get this stuff built for you in like hours. It's very easy. We have it down packed. Yeah. And so that way we can get you on and going.
That's awesome. That's really great. Especially, I love the fact, because I can't tell you how often I have to send something to our local emergency because we are closing and it's not appropriate. You know, they need to go and they need extra care. And they're so thankful when
Mhm.
I call and I'm like, okay, this is what's going on. This is the lowdown. This is what we've done so far. This is what this is what we need, or, whatever you think is best or whatever. And they're usually like, thank you so much for letting me know what is coming my way.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. They want a heads up. They want a heads
Yeah.
up. And fine, great. They can prepare. We even will have it. We even will tell the emergency doctor how far away that client is. Some people live 5 minutes away. Some are 3 hours away because we work all over the world in different areas. And so we'll tell that ER hospital, you can expect them there in an hour and a half. They're going to start driving now, right?
Yeah.
And great. And we'll even have the client call when they're like 20 minutes away to create the account with the receptionist at the ER hospital, right? Or let's say it's a toxicity and we're having poison control, pet poison helpline work in synergy. I want them to call pet poison helpline while they're in transit to the ER hospital. I mean, we want to make this as efficient as possible because chances are that emergency hospital might have a 2 to 8 hour wait,
Yeah.
and we want to make sure that process is quick. So whatever we can do to help things out, we'll set all that up ahead of time.
Yeah. Plus,
I love
also, I
all of
do
this, by the
think
way.
it's nice. Yeah, you like we need this now. But
Just-
like the thing about the the toxicities, I
Mhm.
can't tell you how many people really push back against
Yeah.
calling poison control, and it takes like I have waited myself for a very long time online with poison control in those cases
yeah.
where we really did need a little bit of extra help because it was some odd toxicity that we've never heard of. You know what I mean?
So we've actually partnered with Pet Poison Helpline. They're
Wow.
Nice.
newer in that field, and the reason why is because we're seeing. I mean, we've been seeing this now, and especially since I'm at the forefront of all this new technology in vet med. I have all these companies that come to us now want to talk about partnership, and there's some cool ideas out there. Like we're going to see some badass things in the next 5 to 10 years coming
Yeah.
through, and so I'm seeing a lot of companies that are coming up now to challenge sort of old school companies that have been out there. Everybody uses the SPCA, pet poison control, and not to knock on them, they're very busy. Obviously, they're the only ones that existed.
Right.
The pet poison helpline, the newer one that we're partnered with, they're doing a lot of things to try and help alleviate those wait times, for example.
Oh.
So we actually get them in pretty quick on pet poison helpline. The other thing too is don't forget, number one, most toxicities, the common ones are common, right? Marijuana, raising grapes, chocolate. My vets can handle. We don't necessarily need a toxicologist for those common ones.
Right.
You want to use toxicology for those ones that are either more serious or that are like unusual, human meds, or they get into some weird something. And that's when we use them. But not every client can even afford the emergency care if pet poison helpline says go to see emergency. So
Right.
what happens then? My vets have given them palliative advice in conjunction with the pet poison helpline toxicity report. So we at least give that client some remedies, some home care, because they can't afford ER, or
Right.
they just can't
Right.
geographically get there. So it's very important that these things are spelled out for the clients that use us, that we're going to handle most toxicities ourselves because they're common ones. The ones that are not, we're going to get pet poison helpline to help. And if you can't afford what they're recommending, we've already given you palliative advice anyway to help take care of that pet. So
Yeah.
That's
at
awesome.
the same time, if they do go to the ER, then we have a case number, the usual stuff, right? Case number, the doctor at the ER can call pet poison helpline, get the report, talk about it more, whatever, however it turns out.
Mm.
No, that's really nice and seamless because I can't tell you how many times I'm waiting overnight for trying to get a hold of ASPCA, poison control, whatever I'm trying to call, and it takes literally an hour. I have to walk in on the phone with other clients at the same time, so I'm waiting. I'm like, I can't lose this phone call, but I'm gonna have my next appointment because I'm like, sorry for the ringtone. It's really annoying,
Yeah.
but here we are.
Yeah.
So it's super nice that you guys understand the process and you're trying to make it faster. And I think that speeds everything in ER and everything, but really in
Yeah.
ER, I really appreciate that.
Well, and I
And again,
automatically assumed that you were talking about the one and only pet poison
one and only.
hotline that I know of.
And,
So I'm
you know,
glad there's another one.
I don't want to knock on them. They've been doing a
No.
great job forever. But at some point, like everything else, you reach a capacity where now there's more cost, longer wait times, frustration, right? And let's say you're trying to figure out, am I inducing vomiting or not? Am I starting charcoal now or not? And you're on hold for 20 minutes. Those 20 minutes could be very valuable in the digestion of that toxin, right? So you
Yeah.
want to So it's not we're not hitting on them. It's more just
Oh,
we need another one to help out with the caseload. So
I
absolutely.
agree. I think yes and is the answer in veterinary medicine
Yep.
for so many things. I didn't think at all you were knocking them. But I myself have waited an hour and a half on the phone with like a
Yep. Yeah.
multiple toxicity sort of situation where that was the exact point because I was like I am dealing with a lot of contradictions right now as far as like all the meds this dog got because literally
Mhm.
the owner was actually mixing all the meds and throwing it
Yes.
away and the
Yes.
dog got into a bag of
All the
everything.
things.
And I was like, I would know what to do with one of these, not all of them, you know?
Yep.
So, and yeah, an hour and a half later. And that is
Yeah.
not to knock them. Like you said, they're just as busy as the rest of us. And
Yeah.
Mhm.
I would hope somebody gives us a little bit of grace when we can't get to everything in time. But to have another choice is amazing and very exciting.
Yeah, 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 exactly right, exactly right. So
Yeah.
yeah, but most toxicities are the common ones that my doctors can handle, and you're only going to incur the one fee for vet triage and not pay another fee for pet poison helpline. But if you do need it, we're thankful that they're there, and so it works really well.
That's a really smart partnership. I like that a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thought
You
about
really
I
have
love
it.
it.
thought of all the things, it sounds like.
Oh yeah, I was talking to a
Well,
doctor
for
in Australia the other night, and he was asking, "What if this? What if this? What if this?" And I had answers to all of it because we've done it now for so long. We have hundreds of partners across the world that I'm not sure there's a problem out that we haven't solved yet. That's the beauty about having a virtual company. It's the beautiful thing about it being like owned by like me, and so you don't have to. I don't have to do a chain of command to make a
Right.
decision. We can. I do a business partner. He's not medical, so that's great. So I can talk about the logistics, and then we talk to our dev team, and we can implement stuff. It's beautiful to be able to do that with unlimited bandwidth, right? I can have as many doctors in the platform as I want. I can have as many clients on as I want. I mean, there's no limit. We're not a brick and mortar. We're not confined by space. So it's cool. Yeah.
I think just the way that medicine's going these days is try and save time. And if we can make things more efficient with technology, we should. And I think you got a great point. Like all these conferences I've been to, there's more and more cool things coming out there that are going to help our profession a lot in the next 10 to hopefully 5 to 10 years. That'd be great. I'm
Um,
excited to kind of see a lot of it come out.
well, and then I guess what kind of doctors, like who are you hiring as far as are you GPs, emergency doctors? Who do you look for?
So I interview and hire and train onboard the veterinarians myself because as a boarded surgeon, 17 years of doing this, I know what I'm looking for.
Right.
And we need to have experienced vets who also can communicate well over video, right?
Hmm.
So the doctors that we have on, 1/3 of them are retired or near retirement, where they are general practitioners. They've been doing this for decades. They've sold practices. They're insanely experienced and great with people, right? And so 1/3 are in that category. The other 2/3 are going to be either experienced general practitioners or emergency doctors, and they are new parents. Maybe they have physical disabilities. They can't work in brick and mortar. Maybe they're just borderline burnt out, or they're cutting back on brick and mortar. And so they want sort of a part-time gig, side hustle type of a situation. And great, we can accommodate them. So those are the vast majority. I do have some specialists on the platform, but specialists, of course, it's a different level of expectations with specialists, right?
Right.
And they kind of only want to see their specialty.
Right.
I'm a surgeon. I
Right.
only want to see
Yeah.
surgical stuff. So
Right.
so I don't really I don't target them. If they want this type of position, great, but mostly it's ER and GPs. And then we are I would like to in the future, and I'm not going to announce anything just yet, but we're going to have specific branches of vet triage where you can have, if you have a certain animal type, let's say, you may be able to actually access the veterinarian who knows that animal type specifically. So we're working on sort of nuances. The Spanish speaking platform was the big release last November, where I had either Spanish speaking only or bilingual veterinarians on to help folks in the Hispanic community get access to care. And that was huge. So it
That's
took a
so
lot of work to
huge.
get that done.
Yeah, I can't tell you how much I appreciate when because I've had technicians or something that are bilingual and it is amazing. You see people's faces light up when they really feel like they're being heard and they're understood. And I don't know, can I bring your thing into the exam room on those ones where I need help.
So actually, my doctors will actually, if we send the case to ER,
Hmm.
they'll call it in, stay on with the doctor in the emergency
Wow.
hospital and help with
That's
translating. So yeah,
That's so helpful because man, so I've done the thing with Google Translate and stuff like that, and I feel like
tough.
I honestly feel bad that I'm like doing a disservice because I'm like there's so much more I want to say, but I it's all getting lost in this, so so
Usually,
important.
if that family has anybody who speaks English, it's going to be the kids. And now
Yeah.
you're talking to a 9 or 10 year old, which again, nothing wrong with
Yep.
that, but you're hoping they're going to translate the words to the parents and make big decisions that way. And that's usually best case scenario if you
Right.
don't speak Spanish yourself.
Right.
But yeah,
I think
so our doctors are fully experienced, all that good stuff. Everything you want in a doctor, compassionate, sympathetic. And then they go through rigorous training with protocols, training videos, and then I meet with them again for a Q&A and make sure they understand things. And learning doesn't stop there. The virtual world, as easy as you may think it is, there's a lot of nuance to it.
Right.
And so they continuously learn over time on our platform. And we've had doctors who've been on now with us for years. So they're really proficient at it.
Yeah.
And learning, and because you can talk to doctors 24/7 globally, you can always ask questions and someone's awake to answer your question. If you need help with a case that's a bit unusual for you or you're not really sure, we bounce ideas off of each other all the time on there. So we don't think about this a lot, but the collaborative effort on VetTriage between the doctors is massive, massive. So
I mean, I always say I could never work in a like by myself because I love being able to bounce stuff off the other doctors I work with. I know you're the same way, Robert, right? You like to
yeah,
have
that's why I always like working with people who are smarter than me because
me too.
it just helps. So that's why I work at where I work because it's just a bunch of smart people and you can bounce out ideas. And I think that your company really shows honestly the compassion, the caring. You don't just care about the paycheck or whatever. It's the fact that you guys are calling, helping out in the exam rooms, the fact that you guys are doing a collaborative approach to how you're teaching and educating clients. I think that speaks volumes to your company as a whole. And I love what you guys are doing. I think it's very cool.
Yeah,
thank
I
you.
think I think it's also really interesting that you don't care what animal it is too. I know maybe eventually there'll be a little bit more of a, narrowing down of that, but to have to I mean, I don't think I've answered a question about a horse since vet school.
Yeah. Yeah,
Cool.
we're at, I think we're about 30 different animal types now. We've
Wow.
seen everything from fish to horses and in between. We had an ostrich, an axolotl, a wallaby, a sea otter, any kind of reptile you can think of, different types of birds, small mammals. We've seen a lot of stuff on here. So it's crazy. It's
That's
crazy.
really good because I think what would you even do if you had an axolotl and there was a problem? I am
Yeah.
sure our local ER does not see axolotls.
Yeah, and the person who's calling us knows that, right? Like they know they're not going to
Right.
get any kind of amphibian or fish specialist anywhere. So they're reaching out to us as like a Hail Mary. Can
Right.
somebody please help me? Well, yes, we've got 60 doctors on the platform I could talk to. We've got PubMed, we've got Merck Manual, we've got VIN, we have resources that the client doesn't have, and even if they did have access to them easily, they can't interpret it as quickly as a
Right.
doctor can. Even
Yeah.
though that you might be talking to a companion animal veterinarian, they can tackle that axolotl, just some time to research it, and then we'll figure it out from there together. And so these things, there's ways to do this stuff. It's just in brick and mortar, you don't have time to go and read 30 papers on axolotls to find the one answer you need, right? It's just not realistic. My vets can do that, and we can do that in real time globally with between multiple doctors. I'm searching stuff on PubMed, someone else looking on VIN, someone found something else. It's great, and we help them out. And then you learn. The next
Yeah.
axolotl you see,
Then you know about axolotls.
I have a hard time saying the word, so I'm not even gonna say it. But it's like, but I think it's very impressive. I think, like I said, the clever approach is huge, and it just shows that you guys, it's a caring industry, and I'm gonna be using you guys. I guarantee it. So I really appreciate everything you guys are doing.
Yeah,
Thank you.
this is very clear that you were in up all night in emergency in lots of different places. This is what happens. And then
Yeah,
you're
I'm still up
obviously
all night.
just very compassionate, which we really appreciate. But I can tell you what I remember being a student and having to have the phone that I had to
Yep.
answer those questions. So yeah, I think if I could have had a video, that would have been much better.
We had when we were in school, we had pagers.
Oh God.
Yeah. We had a pretty big, do you remember that emergency phone? And then there was
Oh,
always
I
one
hate
person
that
who had to
phone.
carry it around. I was very nervous to carry that phone around.
I don't like talking on the phone anyway, so that made it so much worse. Like even calling for pizza makes me nervous. So I love what I'm doing now. It's great. But for the everyday person, how, I guess, is there a way for them to reach you? What's the best way for them to find you?
Yeah, vettriage.com, vettriage.com. We do have a YouTube channel. We've got Instagram, we've got a TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, and or talk to your family practitioner about reaching out to us as well for partnerships, especially if you've already used us and you're like, yeah, why is my vet using you guys? This is ridiculous. Feel free to spread the word. But yeah, vettriage.com.
Wow. And if
Awesome.
anybody has any questions, you can always email us at podcast at mybalto.com and we will get your questions back over.
Love it.
But
Now if it's
wow,
about axolotls, though, I'm not answering any of that. Sorry, guys. So,
I'm going to be
Yeah, we
honest
had
with you. When my kids first talked about an axolotl, I was like, that's not an animal. And then I was like,
yeah,
oh, wait, it is. I looked it up and I was like, oh, wait, it's a fascinating animal. And then I went down
it's
a rabbit hole about axolotls. They're cool.
remarkable.
Yeah.
Remarkable. Yeah, they're great pets and they're used for a lot of regenerative medicine stuff. And the human side, it's insane what these animals can do. It's just ridiculous. It's
Yeah. They're
ridiculous.
really interesting. I was kind of like, maybe we should get an axolotl.
Yeah. We
next
we see,
time.
I would say probably like maybe between 70-80% of what we see are still dogs and cats. As you can imagine, those are most popular. And then probably third of rabbits are third. During the pandemic, fourth was chickens. Actually, a lot of poultry, backyard poultry gigs going on. That seemed to die down after the pandemic was dwindling. But then after that, it's kind of just everything random. But yeah, dogs and cats and rabbits are the three most common things that we see. Yeah, and hands down across the board, gastrointestinal disease is the biggest thing we see. It's not even number two is usually like between musculoskeletal and toxicity or foreign body, but they're not even close to GI. I mean, GI is just it's always number one across the board.
Yeah.
So we actually have you might be interested in knowing we actually have research papers coming out to show objective data about what we're doing. It's massive because you look at the telehealth literature in the veterinary side, there's single digits for papers, and there are small papers, whatever. We will be launching a number of massive papers, a large amount of data looking at certain what would you say correlations, tendencies, right? And we're going to break it down by body system. So our first two papers will be gastrointestinal in dogs, then gastrointestinal in cats, and then we'll go from there, derm and whatever. So yeah, we've got some big things coming down the pipes as well. Because you need to have objective data, right? You need literature.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I can talk to you guys all day and convince anybody that this is great and whatever. Are we making a difference? Like, can we actually impact the field in a more objective way? So research papers, you need to have it. So we've got some cool stuff coming down.
Well, especially if you have access to that many patients. I think one of the big things, and we've talked about this, Robert and I, like the things missing in veterinary medicine is just large swaths of patient populations, right? Because what we have are individual hospitals that see what they see anecdotally, but how do you put it all together and really make a impactful paper? I mean, veterinary medicine, our populations are tiny, really.
20
A lot of
patients.
papers.
It's insane. It's not nearly enough.
Yeah. Oh yeah. One of my residency papers was on total hip replacements. It was 100 dogs, and 100 is a big deal in our field.
I was
right?
gonna say that's a lot, actually.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not looking at only 100. We'll release more data later, but it's way more than 100.
That's awesome.
Well, yeah, we'll have to have you back on then. Honestly, when those papers come out, let us know, and also we'll have you back on. You can share some of the big details, and I would I would love to hear it. I'm sure everybody else would too.
I think this is a good beginning of a conversation. I definitely think this is amazing what you're doing. I absolutely love it. I really can't thank you. We can't thank you enough for coming and talking to us. This has really, really been interesting. And I think people are really going to benefit from the information of what you guys are offering. And I think it's really needed and very exciting.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate being on the show with you guys. And anytime I'll be happy to come back and we can do some more.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll make you talk about surgery too one day.
I'm down. I did an Australian podcast about thoracotomies maybe like a couple months ago. So, whatever it is you guys want. Yeah. And then DVM 360, I help them a lot. I'm on their advisory board. And I've done a couple of podcasts with them, and I talk for them as well. But it's all like surgical stuff. That's what people want to hear: pie in vitros, GDVs, hemoabdomens. So yeah, whatever you guys want. I'm
Good.
We'll get a
down.
long list for you. Don't worry.
Yeah, we'll get you back. Don't worry about it. It's our favorite thing to have people visit, and you just like that felt like no time, and it was been great to have you. So thank you so much. We really really appreciate it. This
My
has
pleasure.
been the Posit Podcast. Thank you again so much for coming. Everyone, check out VetTriage, and I'm sure we'll have a link when everything airs. So thanks so much.
Cool.